Right now, you're wearing something. A shirt, a jacket, a pair of jeans, maybe a hoodie you've owned for years, maybe something you spent 20 minutes choosing this morning. You probably didn't think much about it. You opened a drawer, grabbed whatever seemed appropriate, and moved on with your day. Because that's what humans do. We wear clothes. Every culture on Earth does it. Every civilization in history did it. Rich or poor, ancient or modern, desert or tundra. Humans cover themselves. And most people think they know why. Warmth, protection, modesty. Simple. Except there's a problem. The timeline doesn't make sense. Because modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Yet for a huge portion of that time, our ancestors appear to have lived with little or no clothing at all. No closets, no fashion, no uniforms, no brands, just skin. Which creates a strange question. If clothing was so important, why did humans spend hundreds of thousands of years without it? The obvious answer is warmth. Except that explanation starts falling apart when you look closer. Some of the earliest evidence connected to clothing appears while humans were still living in relatively warm environments, places where surviving winter wasn't the primary challenge. So maybe it was protection. Sharp rocks, thorns, insects. That sounds reasonable. Until researchers noticed something strange. The earliest forms of clothing appear to have covered parts of the body that weren't taking the most environmental punishment.
Not the feet, not the hands, not the areas constantly scraping against the world. If protection was the main goal, you'd expect the opposite. The theory doesn't quite fit, and that's where the mystery begins. One of the strangest clues comes from a parasite, not archaeology, not cave paintings, not ancient tools. A parasite. In 2003, researchers studying lice made an unexpected discovery. Body lice and head lice appear to have split from each other roughly 170,000 years ago. That matters because body lice cannot survive without clothing. They live inside fabric. They depend on it completely. Think about what that means. An entire branch of parasites evolved because humans started wearing clothing often enough to create a permanent habitat. A parasite became a timestamp. But here's the fascinating part. The lice only tell us when clothing became common. They don't tell us why humans started wearing it in the first place. The real question still remains. What changed inside the human mind? Researchers began looking somewhere else, not at clothing itself, at human behavior, and they found something unusual. Even in places where clothing wasn't necessary for warmth, people still decorated themselves. Body paint, shell beads, animal teeth, feathers, pigments, fibers. Something was always being added to the body. The body was never left completely alone, and that's difficult to explain if clothing was only practical. Protection doesn't require decoration. Warmth doesn't require symbolism. Something deeper was happening, something uniquely human. To understand it, we need to go back to a world long before cities. Imagine a small group of humans sitting around a fire 100,000 years ago. One person takes an animal hide and drapes it across their shoulder. At first glance, that doesn't seem remarkable, but think about what just happened. That person looked at an object and imagined a future version of themselves using it. That sounds simple, but it isn't. It requires planning, imagination, mental time travel, the ability to picture tomorrow before it arrives. Many archaeologists believe this ability marks one of the biggest differences between humans and nearly every other animal. Most animals react to the present. Humans prepare for futures that don't exist yet, and clothing may be one of the earliest physical signs of that ability. The hide isn't just a hide anymore. It's a possibility, a future tool, a future identity, a future version of yourself. But even that doesn't fully explain what happened, because humans didn't stop at wearing clothing. They became obsessed with it. The wrong outfit can make someone uncomfortable. The right outfit can completely change how they feel. A military uniform creates authority. A wedding dress carries emotion. A judge's robe signals power. A crown signals status. Why? Because clothing eventually became something much larger than protection. It became communication, and communication requires an audience. Now here's where the story gets strange. Psychologists use a term called theory of mind. It's the ability to imagine what someone else is thinking, to step outside your own perspective and see yourself through another person's eyes. Humans are exceptionally good at this. In fact, much of our social world depends on it. At some point in our evolutionary history, our ancestors developed an unusual
awareness. Not awareness of predators, not awareness of weather, awareness of being observed. Suddenly, it wasn't enough to simply survive. You could imagine how other people saw you, whether they trusted you, whether they feared you, whether they respected you, whether they wanted you in the group. And once that happened, everything changed. The body stopped being just a body. It became information. Clothing became a signal. The hide on your shoulders wasn't merely protection. It was a message. It communicated something before you ever spoke. Who you were, what group you belonged to, whether you were important, whether you were dangerous, whether you could be trusted. Anthropologists have found versions of this almost everywhere humans have lived.
Different tribes develop different patterns, different materials, different symbols, different ways of decorating the body. The details changed. The function remained remarkably similar. Before language could fully explain who you were, appearance could, and appearance travels faster than words. You can see this throughout history. Ancient Egypt, special garments for priests, special garments for rulers, special garments for workers. The clothing itself communicated social information. The same thing happened in ancient China, in medieval Europe, in indigenous cultures across the Americas. Across thousands of years and thousands of miles, humans kept arriving at the same solution: turn the body into a message. But here is the part people often miss. Clothing wasn't only telling other people who you were, it was also telling you. Modern psychology has repeatedly shown that what people wear can influence how they think and behave. Researchers sometimes call this enclothed cognition. People often become more confident, focused, or authoritative depending on what they're wearing. The signal doesn't only travel outward, it travels inward too. The clothing changes, the brain responds, the behavior changes. The impulse does not. And that's why clothing never stopped evolving. The practical problems were solved long ago, yet fashion became more complicated, more detailed, more symbolic. Because clothing was never just about survival. It became identity. And identity is one of the most powerful forces in human life. Which brings us back to you. Tomorrow morning, you'll stand in front of a closet. You'll choose something, maybe quickly, maybe carefully. You'll probably think you're making a practical decision. What fits, what's comfortable, what's appropriate. But underneath that simple choice, something ancient is still operating. Your brain is asking questions you may never consciously hear. How do I want to be seen? What am I signaling? Where do I belong? Who am I? Those questions are far older than your wardrobe, far older than civilization, far older than fashion itself. So why did humans start wearing clothes? Not simply because they were cold, not simply because they needed protection. Those explanations matter, but they don't explain the entire story. The deeper answer is that humans became aware of something almost no other species fully understood. They became aware of themselves, aware that other people were watching, aware that appearances carried meaning, aware that identity could be shaped, communicated, and projected into the world. The first person who wrapped an animal hide around their body wasn't just covering skin. They were sending a signal, maybe without realizing, maybe without having words for it, but the signal was there. And once humans discovered that, there was no going back. The fabrics changed, the colors changed, the civilizations changed, but the instinct remained. Even now, before you speak a single word, before anyone learns your name, before you tell the world who you are, part of your brain is still doing something your ancestors started thousands of generations ago. You're deciding how to be seen, and that may be the real reason humans started wearing clothes.